Life throws us curveballs. And when it does, we have choices to make. We can choose to be a victim, or we can step into our power and find the way over it, under it, around it, or through it. And shall I work with kids? So last October, October 4th last year, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And the ultrasound showed that the tumor was relatively small. It was 1.8 centimeters. So the plan was for me to have a lumpectomy and then likely followed with radiation. And so on Halloween last year, I went for surgery. And I joked about being turned into Frankenboob. And about 2 weeks after that, I went to see my oncology surgeon. I was not at all prepared for what he was about to share. In fact, as I sat listening to him, I almost passed out. So it turns out that I didn't have the most common type of breast cancer. Mine was very invasive and sneaky, hard to find. And he actually removed 7.5 centimeters of tumor. And still, all the margins were positive. There was also lymph nodes involved, one of them being 4 centimeters. And I would later learn that I was stage 3, grade 3. And so my oncology nursing brain was sounding the alarm. This was not good news. I was going to need a miracle. And through all of this, I realized how much I still want to be here. How many things I still want to do. How many kids I want to help, how many parents, how many women I want to make a difference. I'm not done. So I had to come up with a plan to ensure that I'm here for a long time. So I went home to think about treatment because now what they were recommending was 5 to 6 months of chemo, then a full mastectomy, followed by radiation. Now, as a nurse, I had given the drugs that I was to receive. I knew way more than I wanted to know about side effects and complications. And I had often thought to myself over the years that if I were to ever be diagnosed with cancer, it was very unlikely that I would take the treatment. I didn't think I could have it. But I went home and talked to friends and mentors and coaches, and my son looked at me and said, "Mom, you have to do everything." And so I went within, and he was right. I needed to do everything I could so that I could stick around. But I also knew, especially from working with my clients, and people have talked about it today, that fear. That causes so much stress in our bodies. And I knew that that wasn't going to help. So with the help of some very special people in my life, mentors and coaches, I made the decision to go through this journey in love. Because when we are feeling love, we can't be in fear at the same time. So I was really conscious, about my mindset, what I was thinking about, what I was talking about. And I realized that so many people talk about fighting breast cancer, get battle it, or be a warrior. But for me, I knew that when I used that language, it put me into fight or flight. And that was only gonna harm my body, not help me get through all of this. And so things like the chemotherapy, that was my liquid love. So when I went for my treatments, I would look at the IV bag and I would visualize liquid love flowing down the tubing into my arm and then throughout my body and surrounding the cancer cells with love and transforming them and excreting them out of my body. And you know, the most powerful thing is love. One of the hardest things through this journey for me was when I lost my hair. Because my hair was the one part of my body that I always liked. And it was a week after I had my first chemo treatment. I come on like this, and there was a handful of hair. I started to cry. And I made the choice to go and have my head shaved and bought a wig. And I remember looking down at the floor at my beautiful hair, and I was just devastated. And later that day, I went home, and I took off my wig, and I looked in the mirror, and I just went, ah! I just felt so ugly and so unlovable. That wasn't going to serve me. So I called on a mentor. And she gave me some exercises to do every day, and I did them religiously. It was probably about 2.5, 3 weeks later. And I still remember looking in the mirror, and I looked deep into my eyes, and I said, "You're beautiful." And for the first time since losing my hair, I felt it. I felt it deep in here. And the magic of all of that is that from that day forward, my hair started to grow back, even though I was still receiving chemo. Wow. That is the power of love. And that leads me to the next point I want to make, and that's gathering the evidence of the miracles. You know, we're human. We want proof, right? Well, there was proof. And so through my journey, I continued to look for those miracles. And they're there everywhere, with the people that have, you know, stepped up to help me. And I've been blown away by the support I've had. You know, there are miracles every day. And more recently, I finished radiation September 5th. And then went to see my medical oncologist. Amazing how many doctors you get to on your team. And he's wanted me to start on a new medication. It's called anastrozole. And it's to help deplete the estrogen in my body because the type of tumor that I had, it feeds on estrogen. And by this point, I was a bit worn out and tired of being fatigued and achy. I just wanted my life back. So I was very reluctant to start this medication. But he looked at me and he said, "You really, really, really need to take this." And my son, he's wonderful. I was talking about this, and I have a couple of friends that are on this medication as well, and they've been telling me about the side effects. Heather would know all about them. They're menopausal, right? So achy joints and insomnia. And, so I just thought, I don't want it anymore. And he said, Mom, you have to stop. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I've been tired and I slipped back into that fear. So it was only 2 or 3 days before I was due to start the medication. I finally pivoted. And I decided that this drug is life-saving for me. It's going to keep that cancer away so that I can be here and do what I'm meant to do. And I'm telling my body every day that I don't have to experience the side effects. Just because other people do doesn't mean that I need to. And so I, let my body know that it knows how to heal itself. And it's doing it every day. And so I'm happy to say I've got more evidence. So I started the drug a couple weeks ago. And I have yet to really feel any of the side effects. Oh. So again, the power of love and the power of our mindset, taking these obstacles and turning them into opportunities. And one of the things when I first found out and I was going within and listening to what I needed to do, it was, yes, you need to go through all of the steps of the treatment. And I kept hearing, write a book. So I actually have 3 that So I'm going to leave you with 3 things to think about. What choices are you making? Be conscious about what you're choosing to think, what you're talking about, who you're spending time with. And then I invite you to look at your life and see, where can you find more love? Where can you love yourself more? Remember my hair. Can you imagine if you love yourself a little bit deeper? And then take time to gather that evidence. In fact, the ladies at my table I gave a journal to, and I want them to keep track of the evidence of miracles, because they are there every day. And I know that I deserve one, and so do each and every one of you.